What if you sold baby back ribs in ancient Egypt? Day 1, you arrive along the Nile with a smoker, lettuce, and raw ribs. But you see people already licking their fingers. You look closer and realize it's Socrates selling baby back ribs. He's already stolen your entire business. You decide to open up anyway. You rub the seasoning onto your ribs, wrap them up tight, and put them into the smoker. After hours, you pull them out, the smell cutting through the air. But no one buys your meat. They all want Socrates' meat. Day 3, you still have no customers. You realize you have to take Socrates down. You go up to him and ask if the ribs recipe is your power. What are you without it? This dumbass actually hands over his recipe. You start replicating his ribs exactly. After hours, you finally get your first customer. Day 5, you decide to slime out Socrates for good. You go to the pharaoh and tell him Socrates is using the power of the gods to attract customers. Socrates gets shut down and taken away. This is your chance to sell your ribs. Day 7, massive lines form for your meat. Every day you sell out and your pockets start filling up with gold coin. What if you sold Smashburgers in ancient Egypt? Day 1, you arrive along the Nile with a grill, beef, and lettuce, but you notice people already crowding around a stall. You push through and realize it's Socrates smashing burgers on a hot stone. He's already stolen your entire idea. You decide to open anyway. You roll the beef into balls, throw them onto the grill, and smash them down hard. The edges crisping instantly. The smell fills the air, fat sizzling loudly, but no one wants your meat. They all want Socrates' smashed meat. Day 3, you still have no customers. You realize you have to take Socrates down. You sneak up to his stall at night, you find his recipe and steal it. He catches you and asks, if stealing is your power, what are you without it? You hit him with a fucking liver shot and flee. You start replicating his recipe. After hours of practice, you finally get your first customer. Day 5, you decide to slime out Socrates for good. You go to his stall and tell everyone he's using forbidden magic in the burgers. Everyone drops their burgers and run. Socrates gets shut down and taken away. Now the market is yours. Day 7, massive lines form for your smashed meat. You sell out every single day. You now own the market. What if you sold brisket in ancient Egypt? Day 1, you arrive along the Nile with a smoker and raw beef, but you see people holding brisket already. You find out Socrates is selling brisket already. It turns out he stole your business. You decide to open up anyway. You rub the seasoning onto your meat, you wrap it up tight and put it into the smoker. After hours, you pull your meat out. The smell cuts through the air, but no one stops to buy. They all want Socrates. Day 3, you get no customers. You realize you have to take Socrates down. You go to him and ask him, if the brisket recipe makes everyone happy, shouldn't it be shared? This dumbass actually hands over his recipe. You start replicating his brisket. After hours, you finally get your first customer. Day 5, you decide to get rid of Socrates for good. You go to the priests. You tell them Socrates is using forbidden magic on his briskets to get customers. Socrates gets shut down and taken away. This is your chance to sell your meat. Day 7, massive lines form for your meat. Every day you start selling out. Your pockets fill up with gold coins. You took down Socrates and built your own empire. Stranger makes you an offer. Every day you wake up in a random person's body. You have to survive 24 hours in their life. If you last a full year, you get $100 million. You take the deal. Day 1, you wake up in a penthouse in Dubai. Private chef, insane view. You eat, relax, enjoy the day. Easiest money you've ever made. Day 12, you're ordering food at a restaurant. Mid-sentence, you're driving a Formula 1 car. You swerve for a second, barely keep control. You somehow survive, but finish in last place. Day 30, you're at home watching TV. Suddenly, you're in full military gear. Dirt all over your face, gunshots everywhere. You drop to the ground instantly. After hours of laying in mud, you barely survive. Day 60, you're in bed relaxing. Now you're underwater. You feel insane pressure. You're a scuba diver. You fight your way to the surface. Day 90, you're about to eat dinner. You look down and see prison food. Now you're in prison. Your cellmate is fucking Socrates. He asks, if crime is your power, what are you without it? You're too tired to even say anything. Year 1, you wake up back in your own body, $100 million richer, but every morning you hesitate before opening your eyes. A stranger hands you an offer. Save Socrates from execution. If you succeed, you win $100 million. If you fail, you never return. You take the deal. You wake up in Athens. The trial is ongoing. Socrates tied up. You stand up and ask a question. If Socrates is Athens' power, what is Athens without him? People start talking. Socrates decides to open his big mouth and give a lecture. He just rage baited everyone. Now you're screwed. He gets sentenced to drink the poison at sunrise. You have one night to save him. You think about bribing the guards, but they will put a spear through you. You decide to have a talk with Socrates. He tells you he doesn't want to escape. What kind of fucking idiot is this guy? He believes in the law, so you try something else. You ask him, if your philosophy is everyone's power, what will they be without it? He looks at you and starts to hesitate. Morning comes. Guards check the cell. No trace left. It's empty. You and Socrates left hours ago. Mission passed. You wake up, back home, $100 million richer. You grab your phone. Search his name, but nothing comes up. You didn't save him. You erased his legacy. What if you never stopped digging in ancient Greece? Day 1. You arrive outside Athens with a basic shovel and start digging. 5 meters down, it's just dirt and stone. A little boring. At 20 meters, your shovel hits pottery and old coins. You clean them and sell them. You just made your first profit. At 100 meters, you uncover marble ruins, lost weapons, and ancient walls. This place hasn't been seen for centuries. At 200 meters, you hit solid rock. Your shovel is useless. The fucking goat Socrates brings you an industrial excavator. Now you have better tools. You're cutting through rock like butter. At 1,500 meters, you break into a massive underground tunnel system. It connects parts of Greece that shouldn't be connected. At 3,000 meters, you discover a hidden underground chamber filled with gold coins. You start selling artifacts. At 200,000 meters, internal heat rises as steam. You install geothermal turbines, your first energy source in Greece. 1 million meters, you break through into a glowing underground world. You declare yourself ruler of what's below, but you hear footsteps above. They've come to take it from you. How did people brush their teeth before toothbrushes? Ancient Egypt. You don't brush your teeth. You rub a mix of crushed rock, ash, and eggshells onto your teeth with your finger. It cleans your teeth, but it also slowly sands them down. Ancient Greece. You use rough cloth and powders. You scrub your teeth by hand. It works, kind of. Your gums are bleeding, but at least you tried. Ancient Rome. You rinse your mouth with urine. The ammonia helps whiten your teeth. Your smile is brighter, everything else is worse. Ancient India. You chew on neem sticks and use herbal powders. It actually cleans your teeth naturally. It's one of the first methods that actually works well. Ancient China. You get the first real toothbrush. Bristles made from pig hair, handles from bone or bamboo. It works, it just feels like brushing your teeth with a tiny animal. Medieval Europe. You don't really brush. You wipe your teeth with cloth, chew herbs, and cover the smell with perfume. If your teeth rot, that's normal. Everyone's breath is bad. Modern day. You've got electric toothbrushes, water flossers, and you still brush for 30 seconds and call it a day. What if you and Socrates sold Raisin Canes in ancient Rome? Day 1. You and Socrates arrive in Rome with raw chicken, oil, and a fryer. The streets smell like sweat and donkey shit. You cut the chicken into strips, dip it in batter. Socrates watches closely. He asks, if a chicken becomes a tender, was it always meant to be tender? You ignore him. You drop the chicken into hot oil. It crackles instantly. You pull it out golden and crispy. The smell spreads through the street. People stop and they stare. Day 2. You return to the forum with Socrates. A soldier buys tenders. He takes a bite. Grease runs down his fingers. He orders a shit ton more. Socrates turns to the crowd. If one tender brings pleasure, should a man not seek more? The crowd agrees. Day 3. Romans start complaining. The tenders themselves are not enough, so you introduce buckets of cane sauce. A Roman takes the bucket instead of dipping. He drinks the sauce. It drips down his neck, but he doesn't care. He looks like he gained 10 pounds. Other soldiers call him pregnant, but they follow and do the same. Week 1. The fryer never cools. Oil constantly bubbling. You serve chicken faster than you can cook. Socrates goes to the emperor. He asks him, if the fryer is our power, what are we without it? The emperor builds you a canes. You and Socrates now have your own business and workers. Month 3. Rome eats chicken and drinks buckets of cane sauce. Philosophers argue with greasy hands. Socrates writes a new philosophy, the theory of infinite tenders. But something seems off about him. What if you and Socrates had steel during the Bronze Age? Day 1. You arrive in Sparta carrying strange gray metal. You slam it onto a blacksmith's table. He pokes it like it might bite him. You try to strike a deal, but the blacksmith doesn't trust you. Then Socrates comes over, and instead of rage baiting, he strikes a deal, and you both take over the workshop. Sparks everywhere. By sunrise, you and Socrates have made a steel sword and a shield. The blacksmith stares at the shield. He taps it, listens. Day 3. You and Socrates walk into the training yard. A local champion shows up with a bronze blade. One swing later, the bronze sword bends like a cheese stick. Yours doesn't even chip. Socrates nods and says, it's just as I expected. No one looks at bronze the same way again. Day 5. Word spreads across Sparta. Crowds gather around your forge to watch the strange metal being hammered into shape. Socrates asks, is the metal your power, or are you the power behind the metal? I guess some things never change. Merchants arrive with carts of iron from across the Mediterranean. Some people come for weapons, others come just to hear Socrates talk. Week 2. The ruler of Sparta comes to you personally. He looks at your work, calls you a goddamn artist. He requests weapons for the army. You and Socrates accept. Soon, steel blades fill the barracks. Caravans keep arriving with more iron. Sparta starts to change. This is the new era. Bronze is a thing of the past. What if you opened an In-N-Out in ancient Egypt? Day 1. You arrive in Egypt carrying buns, a grill, a blender, and ton of ice. You see workers pushing hard. In the heat, they're only allowed to eat bread. You load up the blender with ice, pour milk, and cold chocolate ice cream. You blend it all together. The noise of the blender is heard across the desert. You've made the first milkshake. The thirsty workers stop working and gather around your stall. Day 2. Thirsty workers line up outside your stall. They call it Ice of the Gods. A worker just finished a 20-hour shift. He takes one sip and he freezes. All the other workers can't hold back. In hours, every worker's thirst is filled. Week 1. The city is addicted, but milkshakes are not enough. They want proper food. So you whip out your meat and press it into patties. You put them onto the grill. The sizzling and smell cuts through the desert. You prepare burgers and make sure every worker gets a bite. Week 3. Your very good friend Socrates is visiting Egypt. He comes up to your stand and asks you, if your meat is your power, what are you without it? You laugh and tell him that was a good one. You hand him a milkshake. He drinks it without question. He wakes up on a fucking boat getting sent back to Greece. Month 1. A senator comes to your stand with an offer from the pharaoh. He says he will build you a In-N-Out as long as you supply Egypt with your meat. You now own a In-N-Out. Workers do all your work. Your job is simple. Feed the workers so they work faster. Year 1. Everyone in Egypt has tasted your meat. The pyramids are almost built. Egypt is now your city. You command the food supply chain. You didn't just bring fast food, you brought heart failure. What if you and Socrates opened the Cheesecake factory in ancient Greece? Day 1. You and Socrates arrive in Athens with cream cheese, eggs, and a stone oven. The market smells dog shit, never mind it's Socrates. You crush wheat into fine flour. You mix eggs, cheese, and honey in a clay bowl. Socrates stands beside you watching closely. He asks, if cheese becomes cake, wasn't it always a cake? You ignore him and pour the mixture into a round pan. You slide the pan into the hot stone oven. The smell of sweet cheese drifts through the market. People stop what they're doing and gather. Day 2. You return to the agora with Socrates. A merchant buys the first slice. He takes a bite and initially he's unsure. Then his eyes widen. He buys 4 more slices. Socrates begins asking the crowd questions. If sweetness brings joy, should a wise man refuse a second slice? The crowd agrees and gathers around the stand. Day 3. Athens' sweet tooth takes over. People walk the streets holding plates of cheesecake. They start taking home diabetes for the whole family. Socrates asks you for training. You tell him he's not ready yet. He's about to give you a lame quote. You cut him off and make him greet customers. Week 1. You make cake day and night. You cut slices faster than the cakes can cool. Socrates now starts to help you bake. He's finally getting put to good use. He greets every customer with a question. Month 1. Athens eats cheesecake every night. Your pockets fill with silver. Socrates writes a new philosophy on a scroll. He calls it the theory of infinite cheesecake. Year 1. Athens no longer smells like dog shit. You and Socrates run the food supply. What if you and Socrates open Little Caesars in ancient Greece? Day 1. You and Socrates arrive in Athens with dough cheese and a stone oven. The market smells like olives and piss. You mix flour and water in a bowl. You stretch the dough flat with your hands. Socrates stands beside you watching closely. He asks, if bread becomes pizza, wasn't it always just pizza? You ignore him and spread crushed tomatoes across the dough. You cover it with thick white cheese. You slide the pizza into the hot stone oven. The cheese bubbles and turns golden. The smell cuts through the market. People stop talking and gather around your stand. Day 2. You return to the agora with Socrates. A fisherman buys the first slice. He takes a bite. Grease runs down his fingers. Then he buys 3 more. Socrates begins asking the crowd questions. If a slice makes a man happy, should he not seek another slice? The crowd agrees and lines up. Day 3. Athens loses control. People walk the streets holding slices. Students skip philosophy lectures. Socrates stands outside shouting to the crowd. A wise man knows the value of 2 slices. The line doubles. At least Socrates is being fucking useful for once. Week 1. Your oven never stops burning. You cut slices faster than you can bake them. Socrates now works the front of the stand. He greets every customer with a question. Is a man truly full if he stops at 1 slice? Month 1. Half of Athens eats pizza every night. Philosophers debate with slices in their hands. Your pockets fill with silver coins. Socrates writes new philosophy on a scroll. He calls it the theory of infinite slices. Year 1. Athens no longer runs on olives and bread. It runs on you and Socrates' questions. What if you brought McDonald's McDonald's to ancient Egypt. Day 1. You arrive beside the Nile with a small charcoal grill, salted beef, and bread. Workers move blocks under the burning sun. They only eat stale bread. You grab your meat and roll it into a ball. You press the patty onto the iron. The sizzle cuts through desert wind. The smell drifts across hot sand. Workers stop working and admire your stand. Day 2. You set up near the pyramid site. People wait in the shade for your meat. They start calling it meat of the gods. 30 laborers line up before sunrise, grease on their fingers, but they don't care. By nightfall, you fed every single worker. Day 3. Things go downhill. A governor comes up to your stand and asks who gave you permission to sell. He tells you to close up shop and leave. You say nothing and hand him a burger. One bite and he folds. As long as you give the governors free burgers, no one will disturb you. Week 1. Socrates is touring in Egypt. He comes up and asks you, if the burger is your power, what are... You cut him off. You've had enough of this bum. You tie him up and send him back to Greece. There's no way he comes back, right? Month 6. The crowds exceed limits. It's getting hard to meet demands. You send a proposal to the pharaoh. He takes one bite of your burger and accepts. He builds you a McDonald's near the pyramids and gives you workers. Your job now to feed workers. Year 1. Your meat controls Egypt. No food supply enters or leaves the country without your approval. You didn't just make a business, you filled hungry stomachs. What if you sold spicy bulldog noodles in ancient Egypt? Day 1. You arrive in Egypt carrying a crate of bulldog noodles. The streets smell like piss and sand. You boil the noodles in a clay pot. Then you pour in the deadly red sauce. You take out the slimy noodles and pour them into a bowl. The smell alone makes people step back. A worker tries the first bite. He coughs, sweats, and shouts for water. Then he asks for another bowl. Day 2. The rumor spreads through the market. They call them slimy strings of death. People gather just to watch. A soldier asks for a full bowl. He eats it. His face turns red. He runs in circles through the market. Then 3 more soldiers step forward. Day 3. Temple priests hear about it. They say the noodles are cursed. Food touched by the god of fire. They try to seize your pot. You pack everything before sunset. That night, you sell from an alley behind the market. The first secret bowl sells for 10 silver. You've created the first black market for noodles. Week 1. A strange hooded man approaches. Wait, is that fucking Socrates? This time, he doesn't ask a question. He just asks for a bowl. You hand him the 10 times spicy noodles. He takes one bite and he realizes he fucked up. You make him beg you for water. Then you tell him to get the fuck out of here. He runs away like a good boy. Month 1. The red noodles become a legend. People whisper about the fire bowl. The spice spreads across the city. Workers come at night. They cry while eating but return for seconds. Month 3. Your final crate is empty. Half of Egypt is addicted to the fire noodles. Your pockets are heavy with gold. Before the sun rises over the Nile, you disappear into the desert. What if you opened a casino in ancient Rome? Day 1. You arrive in Rome carrying dice, cards, and a strange spinning wheel. The Romans already gamble a little, tossing coins, but they have never seen anything like this. You set up a wooden table in a crowded market street. People gather around slowly, curious about the colorful wheel and the neat stacks of coins on the table. You explain the rules to everyone. They only understand the colors. Day 2. More soldiers and merchants arrive to test their fortune. They call it the strange game of luck. Coins pile onto the table. A soldier steps forward and places a single coin down. You spin the wheel. The ball bounces around the metal rim. When it lands, the soldier wins double his money. You just lost half of your life savings. Week 1. Some people win quickly and walk away smiling. Others lose everything and demand one more spin. The noise around your table grows louder every hour. Roman soldiers bet their wages and leave with empty pockets. Week 2. Socrates is in town. He approaches you and asks, if the wheel gives you money, what are you without it? You say nothing and challenge him to a game. Socrates puts everything he has on black. You spin the wheel, the ball lands on red. You steal all of Socrates' shit. He says he will get his revenge. Then he leaves like a good little boy. Month 5. The richest men in Rome begin to visit your stall. Senators arrive wearing expensive robes. They gamble gold coins and jewelry. One nobleman loses his entire estate in a single night. Year 1. Your casino becomes the busiest place in Rome. Crowds fill the casino every night. The Romans spend their nights trying to conquer luck. What if you opened a Chipotle in ancient Rome? Day 1. You arrive in Rome carrying rice, beans, and avocados. The Romans are eating stale bread. You start cooking rice in a clay pot. You grill the meat over an open fire. Then you mash avocados into green paste. You wrap everything in a tortilla. The first burrito in Rome is born. But this time, only 2 people gather around to watch. Day 2. Very few people line up. They call them rolls of the gods. A Roman takes a bite, he freezes, then buys 5 more by sunset. You have made less money than expected. Something isn't right. Week 1. You're barely getting customers, so you introduce introduced the burrito bowl system, rice, beans, and sour cream sauce. Then the sacred green guacamole. Roman soldiers eat the Chipotle bowls. They say the bowls give them power, but then suddenly half your customers disappear. Week 2. You see a crowd forming. Standing in the middle of the street is fucking Socrates. He's asking the crowd questions. If the burrito is a mix of everything, why does it give you nothing? Romans begin questioning the bowls. Turns out Socrates has been sabotaging you. You've had enough. You walk up to Socrates and shove a whole burrito down his throat. Once he tastes your meat and cream, he buys out your stall. Month 1. Your customers start to pile up. You start selling out every hour. Julius Caesar sends you a proposal. He will build you a Chipotle in the center of Rome, as long as you feed the gladiators. Now workers cook for you. You just sit back as Socrates stands outside like a good boy, convincing people they must try your meat. Year 1. Rome no longer runs on grain, it runs on guacamole. You didn't just bring Rome guacamole, you brought sense to Socrates. What if you became a drug dealer in ancient Greece? Day 1. You arrive with kegs and glass containers. You possess chemicals no one here has ever seen. The streets feel slow. People sit around with low cortisol, seeking for any sort of stimulation. You set up a small table and get to cooking. You start mixing your chemicals, putting together formulas. The mixture bubbles. Then something forms. The purest crystal anyone has ever seen. People gather and stare at you. Day 2. Word spreads through Athens. People whisper about the blue crystals. People line up to see the hype. One man tries it. His eyes widen instantly. Cortisol spikes for the first time in years. He feels alive. By sunset, not a single person is bored. Day 3. The demand starts to explode. People can't stop coming. They beg for more. You're making a farmer's yearly wage every day. You spend the entire night cooking. Blue crystals forming in glass containers. This isn't a small business anymore. You're on road to a drug empire. Week 1. Socrates comes up to your stand. He looks at your crystals and calls you a goddamn artist. For the first time, Socrates didn't hate. He asks if he can be your cook partner. You tell him to fuck off. He leaves like a good boy. Month 6. You officially supply to other countries. Hundreds of pounds of crystal transported every day. But the city starts changing. Philosophers stop thinking. Their whole purpose in life shifts to change the crystal. Year 1. You're officially the biggest drug lord the world has seen. You have more money than anyone in Greece. The council tries to overthrow you, but you have too much power. You now rule Greece. What if you sold matcha in ancient Rome? Day 1. You arrive in Rome carrying a small pouch of green powder, a bowl, and a wooden whisk. The city smells like piss and wine. These guys only drink wine. You pour green powder and hot water into a bowl and you start whisking it. You pour the mixture into fresh milk and ice. People stare. A bright green drink appears. Day 2. You set up next to the Colosseum. People start to line up. They call it Drink of the Earth. A soldier takes a sip. He instantly becomes calm and takes home another 4 cups. By sunset, everyone in the city is holding green. Day 3. Everyone in the city has tasted your fluids. The demand keeps growing. People start to debate with each other while holding matcha. The city is drinking more matcha than ever. By midday, your milk barrels are empty. You have nothing left to mix, so you visit nearby farms and strike deals with Roman farmers. Every morning, carts of fresh milk arrive at your stall. Week 1. You're just minding your business and working, and you see fucking Socrates touring Rome. He approaches, but he doesn't want trouble. He just wants a drink. You charge him 5 times the price. He pays it like a good boy and leaves to go debate with his geek friends. Month 1. Matcha spreads across the empire. You get summoned by the emperor. He calls your drink a gift from the gods. He gives you workers and resources. Your job is simple: satisfy Rome. Senators drink it during debates. Matcha becomes a Roman obsession. Year 1. Rome no longer runs on wine. Rome runs on your fluids. No tea enters the city without your approval. You didn't just sell a drink. You changed Roman culture. What if you opened a Dunkin' Donuts in ancient Greece? Day 1. You arrive in ancient Greece carrying flour, sugar, and an iron pot. Greek markets smell like fish and dog shit. These guys only eat plain bread. You prepare the dough and roll it up into small rings and drop them into hot oil. The dough starts to bubble and turn golden. You cover them with your thick, fluid, colorful toppings. People gather around and stare at you. Day 2. You set up near a landmark. People line up at your stall. They call them rings of the gods. A man takes a bite. He almost faints with happiness. He tells you to put the donuts in the bag. He takes home 20 by sunset. The sugar rush kicks in. The city doesn't sleep. Day 3. The city is addicted. People walk around holding bags of donuts. Philosophers start debating with frosting all over their robes. The demand doesn't stop. Gladiators chase the sugar rush before training. Week 1. You're minding your business frying donuts. Fucking Socrates comes to rage bait you. He asks, does the donut control the man, or does the man control the donut? You want to throw the fucking oil at him, but at this point point you give up, you just hand him his donuts. He calls you a good boy and walks away happy this time he won. Month 3. The lines are bigger than Socrates' head. You send a proposal to the emperor for a bigger shop. The emperor takes one bite and immediately builds you a Dunkin' Donuts. Now you don't have to lift a finger. Workers do everything for you. Donuts become a Greek obsession. Year 1. Athens is now the donut capital. You've achieved a donut empire. Greece no longer runs on plain bread. It runs on sugar and thick white sauce. You didn't just bring donuts, you changed Greek culture. What if you sold Crumbl cookies in ancient Rome? Day 1. You arrive in Rome with a small stone oven, flour, eggs, and copious amounts of sugar. They only eat salty and bland food. You mix the batter in a bowl, butter, flour, and sugar. You roll the dough into thick rounds and place them on the hot stone. They rise, the smell spreads through the street. People gather and stare at you. Day 2. You set up near the Colosseum. People line up outside your stall. They call them discs of the gods. One merchant takes a bite. The inside melts. By sunset, people don't stop. They keep demanding more. Day 3. Disaster strikes. The demand explodes. Romans line up before you open. They don't buy just one, they buy entire trays. You start to run out of ingredients. The Romans demand more, so you get help from a farmer. Fresh ingredients every morning. Week 1. An odd individual approaches your stall. He asks you, if the sugar is your power, what are you without it? You realize it's Socrates in disguise. You ask him how the fuck he found you again. Before he replies, you beat the shit out of him and send him back to Greece. Now he's gone for good, right? Month 6. People start to go crazy. They chase the sugar rush. You can't meet the demand and people get aggressive. You ask the emperor for help. The emperor tastes one cookie and feels the rush. Immediately, he orders a bakery to be built in the heart of Rome. You now have ovens, workers, and unlimited flour. Your job is simple: satisfy the cravings of Rome. Year 1. The high amounts of sugar starts to affect the gladiators' performances. The emperor blames you and your cookies. He orders your execution. You became rich, but at the cost of your life. What if you sold Dubai chocolate in ancient Rome? Day 1. You arrive in Rome carrying cocoa beans, pistachios, and kunafa. Sweets in the markets are luxury. These guys only eat rotten meat and bread. You grind the beans into a paste and pour it into molds. Then you layer it with kunafa paste. Once they set, you break the bar open. Thick green filling spills out. People stop walking and gather around you. Day 2. You set up near the Colosseum. People line up outside your stall. They call it green turds. A Roman soldier takes one bite. He freezes. He buys 10 more to give his whole family diabetes. By sunset, Rome is covered in chocolate wrappers. Day 3. The city is addicted. The demand only grows. A gladiator comes to you. He asks you to make a batch for the whole army before training. They want the sugar rush during training. By midday, you run out of milk, so you walk over the river Tiber to strike deals with farmers. You now have fresh milk every morning. Week 1. You see that someone is stealing. You get closer and catch the thief. It's fucking Socrates stealing your shit. He says he can explain and tries to ask you his bum-ass questions. You've had enough. You tie him up in the streets as an example to not steal. That should show him. Month 1. Kunafa is known across the empire. Rome imports cocoa everywhere now. Senators eat your chocolates during debates. Markets don't smell like piss anymore. They smell like melted chocolate. Rome becomes the chocolate capital. Year 1. You're the richest person in Rome. You run your own chocolate factory and workers. Rome no longer runs on bread and rotten meat. It runs because of you. You didn't just sell chocolate, you brought diabetes to Rome. Would you get rich selling tacos in the ancient Aztec Empire? Day 1. You arrive carrying beef, spices, and a small iron pan. You walk through the village. They only eat maize and beans. You roll up corn balls and press the corn dough flat onto the iron pan. You then slap your meat onto the pan. The sizzling and smell cuts through the air. People gather around your stand. No one has ever smelled anything like it. Day 2. Word spreads through the city. Lines form before sunrise. People call them sunbreads. Warriors take bites. Oil and crumbs spill everywhere, but they don't care. By sunset, you've made a week's wage. Day 3. Meals start to backfire. Warriors start to miss training to use the bathroom, but the lines only get longer. People crowd your stall. The demand gets overwhelming. You struggle to keep up. Week 1. An odd customer skips the line before you can say anything. He asks you, if your meat is your power, what are you without it? You look closer and discover it's fucking Socrates disguised as a tribe member. How does he keep doing this? You're too busy for this bum. You will deal with him later. Month 6. Your food spreads across the empire. Tacos become a culture. The tribe leader is looking for a virgin sacrifice to please the sun gods. You point to Socrates and hand him over. He starts asking them his weird questions, but they ignore him and take him away. You finally got rid of him. Year 1. The empire runs on your recipe. No food enter or leaves the city with your approval. You didn't just fill empty stomachs, you brought them culture. What if you sold fried chicken in in ancient Greece. Day 1. You arrive in Greece with raw chicken, flour, oil, and a bronze pot. Philosophers are debating. Athletes training nearby in the dust. They eat figs and barley. You season the chicken and prepare it. Lower it into hot oil. The crackling sound cuts through conversation. The smell spreads through warm Mediterranean air. 20 men gather up and stare at you. Day 2. You set up outside the Acropolis of Athens. People wait hours for your meat. They start calling it Golden Bird. 30 athletes line up after training. Grease on their fingers. Silence while chewing. By nightfall, you've made a week's wage. Day 3. Things go downhill. Oil needs replacing. Chicken spoils in the heat. Half your stock wasted. You cross the countryside at sunrise. Strike a deal with a farmer outside the city walls. Fresh chicken and oil every morning. Week 1. Socrates approaches your stand. You decide you're gonna teach him a lesson, but this time he doesn't ask a question. He just tries your chicken and leaves. You call him a weirdo. He just walks away. Month 6. The lines extend. You get called to make chicken for the emperor. He tries it with tears in his eyes. You get given a kitchen and workers. You reach peak ascension. Year 1. People all over the country have tried your meat. You didn't bring fried chicken to Greece. You brought them desire. Would you become rich selling pizza in ancient Rome? Day 1. You arrive in Rome with flour, cheese, crushed tomatoes, olive oil, and a clay oven on a cart. The forum is chaos. Merchants shouting, gladiators passing through. You set up your station and start cooking. You stretch the dough perfectly and pull out the first slice. The smell cuts through smoke and sweat. Gladiator smells it. 20 men stop mid-step. Day 2. People start to queue up. You call it fire bread. You park near the Colosseum. 30 gladiators line up before training. 2 silver coins a slice. By noon, you've made a week's wage. Day 3. Disaster. Cheese spoils in the Mediterranean heat. Nearly everything wasted. You cross the Tiber at sunrise and find a dairy farmer outside the city walls. Fresh cheese every morning. Crisis is handled. Week 1. Socrates is traveling by Rome. He asks you, if the dough is your power, what are you without it? You feel like throwing the pizza at him. Month 1. After the games, thousands pour out hungry. You sell 500 slices before sunset. A senator's advisor shows up, takes a bite. Next morning, you're summoned by the emperor. Now you cater private banquets. Gold replaces silver. Month 6. 12 workers, ovens across 3 districts. Legionnaires and gladiators eat your slices daily. Year 1. Copycats everywhere. Sales dip. You sit above the forum and realize you didn't give Rome pizza, you gave them a legacy. What if you and Socrates sold Dubai chocolate in ancient Greece? Day 1. You and Socrates arrive in ancient Greece carrying cocoa beans and kunafa. Sweets in the markets are rare. These guys only eat olives. This time, you let Socrates cook. He grinds the cocoa beans into a paste and then pours it into a mold. Layers it with kunafa. Once it sets, he breaks the bar open. Thick green filling spills out. People stop walking and gather. Day 2. Socrates' marketing is dog shit. No one comes to buy them, so you start asking the crowd questions. If the cookie satisfies you, why not buy more? A crowd forms instantly. Day 7. The city is hooked. People keep asking for more. A group of soldiers want a full batch before training. They say it gives them energy. Socrates asks for you help. You decide to help, but something seems off about him. Month 1. Business is booming, but something feels off. You notice silver coins go missing. You set a trap and wait. You catch the thief. Holy shit, it's fucking Socrates. He says, if I take the coins, were they ever truly yours? This guy can't be serious. He's fucking stealing from himself. You walk away. He can't be saved. Month 3. You run the biggest chocolate factory Greece. Kunafa chocolate spreads across Greece. Philosophers eat your chocolate while debating. Socrates is back, now helping again like nothing happened. Socrates stands next to you saying, did we build the chocolate? Or did the chocolate build us? You don't answer. You're too busy counting money. What if you brought pizza deliveries to ancient Rome? Day 1. You arrive in ancient Rome on a moped. Engine echoes through the streets. You're carrying dough, tomato sauce, and cheese. These guys are eating bread and olives. You fire up a stone oven, bake your first pizza. The smell cuts through the air. Day 2. No one understands delivery. You point to the moped and say, food brought to you. They look confused. Why would food move? So you start riding through the streets, dropping pizza at their doorstep. They finally understand. Day 5. No addresses. You just ride through the city until someone waves. You deliver your first order. He takes a bite and freezes. He gives you a tip. It's an olive. Week 1. You're riding through the streets on your moped. A man suddenly steps directly in front of you. It's Caesar. waiter. He looks a bit different. He takes a bite, then looks at you and says, "Did you invent the pizza, or did the pizza invent you?" It's actually Socrates in disguise. What the fuck is going on? You ram the fucking moped into him. Problem solved. Week 3. You run out of cheese. You cross the river Tiber. In minutes, you locate a farmer. Now you get fresh cheese every morning. Month 3. You're running the biggest pizza operation in the entire empire. But you can't keep up with orders, so you hire Socrates to bake pizzas. You go out and deliver pizzas while he bakes. I guess Socrates isn't useless after all. Could a modern gym influencer survive in Sparta? Day 1. You pull up outside the training yard rocking a tank top and ego. You hang a sign that says no excuses. A Spartan walks over, built like a statue. You hand him a 100-pound dumbbell. He lifts it like a toy, then just stares at you. You realize you might be cooked. Day 2. You introduce the bench press. A Greek philosopher lays down, pushes it up once, then stands up and thinks he's tough. A Spartan steps up next, still wearing full armor. You tell him to take it off. He says, "Hold my sword, little boy." You let him lift. He does 10 reps and says, "Nice warm-up." Day 3. You go looking for some protein. The vendor doesn't know what you're saying and dumps you a plate of olives. You stare at it and ask, "Where's the protein?" He calls you a sub 5, points at his biceps and smiles. Day 4. You go and find Socrates. You tell him to do a 225-pound bench. He says, "If the plates are the bar's power, what is it without them?" This dumbass takes the weight off and does a rep. He gets up like he just won an Oscar. What the fuck is this kid doing? You've seen enough bullshit. You kick him out. Day 5. You realize you're not special. Your biceps are the size of their fingers. You're charging for a bench and vibes. You just getting bitched around by them. Day 6. Word spreads to the emperor. He wants you to train his gladiators. You stand there looking at the strongest men alive and somehow convince them they can still improve. You become the coach of an empire. What if a modern engineer went to ancient Greece? Day 1. You wake up in Athens. Soldiers fighting barefoot in the dirt. Bronze shields locked tight. They call it perfection. You see inefficiency. Day 2. You gather wood and bronze scraps. You reinforce their shields and formations. Balance improves instantly. They don't praise you. They test it in combat. Day 3. You adjust their formation. Front lines rotate instead of collapsing. Soldiers' endurance increases and losses drop. Each battle starts to look like training. Day 4. You're on top of the world. Food supplies are no longer an issue. Armor is repaired systematically. Training is scheduled in rotations. Your system is thousands of years ahead. Day 5. Neighboring states fall faster than expected. Sparta moves like a program. Soldiers look to you for adjustments. Generals start memorizing your methods. Day 6. The generals start to take over. They slowly push you out. They understand the system, with or without you. They don't need you anymore. Day 7. You stand in the yard. Looking at what you created, you are no longer of service. What if you smuggled hot Cheetos into ancient Greece? Day 1. You step into Athens carrying a mysterious bag of spicy red snacks. Nobody has a clue what it is. You offer one to a random elder. He chews it. His eyes bulge out. He starts choking. You think you're going to prison. Day 2. The rumor explodes. They say a foreigner is carrying edible fire. People gather just to stare. You challenge an Olympic wrestler. He eats one, sheds a single tear, and immediately begs for the whole bag. The plaza is stunned. Day 3. The high priests panic and label your snacks a cursed weapon sent by Ares. They order your stash destroyed. You bury it beneath the city stones, creating the first ever Cheetos black market. Week 1, you only deal in dark alleys. You double the price, but the demand goes crazy. Those exact same angry priests are now sneaking out to buy from you at midnight. Month 1, the whole city is hooked. Socrates himself approaches your stall, stares deeply into the red dust and asks, "I used to believe that I knew nothing, but now I know I desperately need some milk." You toss him a bag. He walks off, stroking his red-stained beard. Month 6, your vault is overflowing with solid gold. You row away on a boat at midnight, leaving behind an entire empire with permanently red fingers. What if you farmed aura in ancient Greece? Day 1. You spawn in Athens wearing pitch-black sunglasses and an unbreakable stoic posture, plus 100 aura instantly. The most beautiful women in the city try to flirt with you in the main plaza. You don't even look at them. You just keep walking. They are absolutely devastated, plus 500 aura. Day 3, you walk straight through an intense Spartan training camp. A heavy bronze spear grazes your glass skull. You don't blink. You don't flinch. The Spartans drop their weapons in pure awe, plus 1,000 aura. Week 1. The rumor spreads across the empire. Crowds freeze just to watch you walk by. You are the most unbothered being in human history. Socrates himself tries to trap you with an annoying philosophical question about virtue. You look deep into his eyes and say, I know that I know nothing, but I also know you're blocking my moon. Move, old man. Reset aura for Socrates. He enters a deep existential crisis. Infinite aura for you. Month 1, you are so unbothered that the Oracle of Delphi literally cannot read your future. Zeus personally invites you to Mount Olympus. You leave him on red. You say you're too busy farming aura on the ground. Month 6, you beat the game. You turn into a living statue on the Acropolis. Entire empires bow down to your immaculate vibe. What if you became a barber in ancient Greece? Day 1, you arrive in Athens with just a scissors, a comb, and questionable qualifications. You set up a small barber stand in the middle of the marketplace. You sharpen your scissors because in ancient Greece, the haircut has to be philosophically precise. Your first customer sits down. You get to work. Nobody has ever seen a haircut like this before. Within minutes, an entire crowd gather to stop and watch. By sunset, word spreads around. You have an entire line of Greeks waiting to get a haircut. Then suddenly, you see a familiar face in the crowd. He waves at you. It's Socrates. This guy already appeared from the first day. He demands a haircut. You get to work. You give him the most exotic haircut ancient Greece has ever seen. Socrates stands up. The crowd gasps. Now he looks like the Ragebait final boss. But of course, this guy always has something to say. He strokes his beard and says, if the clippers make you a barber, then what are you without them? You've had enough of his ugly ass. You tie him up to the chair and shave every hair he has on his head. You hold up the mirror. Socrates stares at his completely bald reflection in disbelief. He finally shuts up for once. Then he walks away with his shining head like a good boy. What if Show Speed appeared in ancient Rome? Day 1. You wake up in the middle of a crowded Roman street. Stone roads, market noise, soldiers pushing through the crowd. You start shouting, barking like usual. People stop and stare. No one understands the words, but the energy spreads instantly. Day 2. The crowd follows you through the forum. Socrates leans forward and says,
if barking is your power, then who are you when you're quiet?
Speed looks up at him and barks louder than ever. You mimic soldiers, bark at statues, jump onto a fountain, and yell louder than anyone in the city. Even the guards can't stop laughing. Word spreads fast. A strange loud man has arrived in Rome. Day 4. You're brought before the emperor. Marble hall, silent guards. You look straight at him and bark. The room freezes. The emperor doesn't laugh. He sends you to the Colosseum. Day 6. The gates open. Thousands of Romans fill the arena. Sand everywhere. Steel everywhere. You move fast, unpredictable, yelling louder than the crowd itself. People start chanting something new. Speed! 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 Week 2. Fight after fight. You don't fight like a gladiator. You fight like chaos. Jumping, shouting, barking mid-battle. The crowd loves it. Month 1. Rome is obsessed. Graffiti appears on stone walls. You raise your arms and shout the only name they understand. My name, Speed Maximus. Final day. The emperor calls you back to the arena. One final fight. Steel clashes. The crowd shakes the Colosseum. You lost. How much money would you make with a laundromat in ancient Rome? Day 1. You arrive in Rome with washing powder. You realize Romans already wash clothes, but with urine. Yeah, actual pee. It works, but everyone smells like walking toilets. You decide to try it yourself. You instantly pass out after one whiff. You realize this is a massive opportunity. You set up a small washing stand. Your income so far is $0. Day 2. You start small. Water and washing powder. Simple. You wash one man's toga properly. He smells it. No stench. Completely clean. He thinks you're some kind of god. He pays you, then tells everyone. You just made your first $2. Day 3. Word spreads fast across the city. Socrates shows up smelling like donkey shit. You raise the price to $50 for him. He tells you to fuck off and walks away. Well, I guess his broke ass can't afford it. By the end of the day, you hit your first $1,000 day. Day 5. A senator stops by. He tells you to wash his toga. You give it to him smelling brand new. He's shocked by the result. He tips you $100 and leaves. By the end of the day, you've made $10,000. Day 7. You get summoned by Caesar. He wants exclusive service for elites. You raise your prices, and he doesn't even question it. You're not just washing clothes anymore. You control cleanliness in Rome. Your income is now $100,000. Your levels as a baker in ancient Rome. Level 1. Poor. You're dirt broke in Rome. You walk past the small bakery. An old man catches you staring. He sighs and tells you to come in. He lets you work for food. You get paid pennies, but you start learning. Level 3, Apprentice. You start watching everything he does. How he mixes, how he shapes, how he controls the oven. You mess up batches, he yells at you to fix it. You've made $20 so far. Level 5, Skilled. You make your first perfect loaf. He doesn't say anything. You start to sell more than ever. You're getting tips and selling out. You've made your first $1,000. Level 7, Underdog. The old man only gives you a small share in profits, so at night, behind the bakery, you sell your new recipe. Word spreads. You sell out. You just made $2,000 in a night. Level 10, Mastermind. Socrates comes into the shop and fucking snitches on you to the old man. He fires you on the spot. You're left with your savings, $100,000. You decide you're gonna overthrow the old man, so you come up with a plan. Level 100, Owner. You open your own bakery. You instantly start to sell out. You're the richest baker in town. $450,000 every month. The old man loses everything. He has to shut his shop. You didn't just learn from him, you replaced him.
What if you opened an Apple store in ancient Greece? Day 1. You arrive in ancient Greece at its peak, dragging a crate of devices. You lay everything across a stone table and power on the iPhone. A curious customer approaches, staring at the glowing rectangle. You open the camera and point it at him. A perfect image of himself captured in an instant. He thinks you snatched his soul. He demands to know the price. You hold up 5 fingers. He drops a bag of gold coins on the table without blinking. Day 3. Merchants from different kingdoms come to see your Apple store. You open up Google Maps and show the crowd every kingdom. Socrates pushes through the crowd and starts yapping. You slide the AirPods into the nearest soldier's ears. He can't hear anything. You explain how noise cancellation works. The crowd loses it. Day 5. The demand is unlike anything Athens has ever seen. You've earned more gold than merchants have in their lifetime, but you're completely out of stock. Nothing left. A wealthy merchant proposes a deal. He asks you if you have the knowledge to produce more. You tell him to bring you the materials, and you will handle the rest. You shake hands. Day 7. The factory's in full production. Workers smelt sand into glass for iPhone screens. You pull your engineers aside and introduce them to electricity. By the end of the week, you're running your own production line. Month 1. You're back in business. The queue stretches across the agora. Everybody owns an Apple product. The emperor is on a date with Cleopatra in a VR headset. Socrates argues with Siri and loses. You didn't just open a store. You conquered ancient Greece.
What if your dad was the ancient philosopher, Socrates? Age 3, you fall on the stone floor, scrape your knee, and start crying. You look up for a hug. He squats down, strokes his beard, and says, "If crying is your only solution, what is life but a sea of misunderstood tears?" You strongly consider throwing a rock at his face. Age 8, you ask him for help with your math homework. He looks deep into your eyes and says, "Son, I know that I know nothing. How can I teach you what the universe hides?" You fail geometry completely. Age 15, you ask for some silver coins to go out with your friends. He blocks the door. He who is not content with what he has at home will never be content with what the night has to offer. You slam the heavy stone door in his face and go to sleep angry. Age 23, you complain that all your friends are married and you're still single. His advice: by all means marry. If you get a good wife, you'll become happy. If you get a bad one, you'll become a philosopher like me. You take a deep breath to stop yourself from drowning the old man in the sea. Age 30, on his deathbed, he looks at you. I go to die and you to live. Which is better? Only the gods know. He dies. You cry until you realize he left you zero inheritance. Just a bunch of annoying students knocking on your door. What if you brought a Formula 1 racing car to ancient Greece? Day 1, you roll into Athens in a screaming red F1 car. Just carbon fiber and pure disrespect. People stop and stare. First, they think it's a statue. Then you fire up the engine. A horse screams. A kid starts crying and a guard throws his spear. You hit the throttle. Dust blasts everywhere. You're gone before they even understand what happened. Day 2, you line up against the fastest horse in Athens. Whole crowd's watching. Then the flag drops. The horse moves, but you're already halfway down the road. You're just a red streak by the first turn. The chariot is still trying to look brave. Then you come back smiling and match him after your 5th round while he's still on his first. He looks at you like you just broke the laws of nature. Day 3, the problems start. The fuel is disappearing way too fast. A merchant offers olive oil. Another offers wine. You stare at them like they're insane. And on top of this, an old fucker named Socrates drags his ass in. He looks at the car, and for the first time, he's not asking his dog shit question. Suddenly, the engine dies. What if you sold Gatorade in ancient Greece? Day 1, you show up to Olympia with a cooler full of Gatorade. 40,000 people standing in direct sunlight watching naked men wrestle in olive oil. People fainting from heat stroke. You pull out a neon blue bottle. A priest sees the color and drops to his knees. He thinks Poseidon sent it. Day 2. You set up outside the stadium. Athletes here train on dried figs and wine mixed with vinegar. Cold water is forbidden. You hand a wrestler a Gatorade. He wins his next 3 matches. His coach doesn't know what happened. Day 3. The head trainer bans your drink. Athletes sneak out at night and buy it anyway. You now run a black market sports drink operation behind the stadium. Day 4. A pancration fighter drinks 3 bottles before his match. He wins in 40 seconds. His opponent asks what he drank. You say electrolytes. Nobody knows what that means. You don't either. Day 5. Socrates walks up and just stares at the bottle.
If this drink makes a man win, does the victory belong to the man or the drink?
You feel like pouring it over his head. Day 6. Sparta sends a messenger. He picks up a bottle, drinks it in one gulp, and says,
"How many can you make?"
You say, how many do you need?
All of them.
You are set for life. What if you opened a modern wig shop in ancient Greece? Day 1. You walk into the market carrying a massive sack of wigs. The place is packed with bald guys. You quickly set up your stand, displaying all kinds of crazy styles. A balding politician walks up to your booth. You immediately recommend the best-selling Trump style. He checks his silky blonde hair in a bronze mirror. Bro literally starts crying. He immediately throws down a bag of silver coins and picks out 3 different styles. Day 3. Your shop is completely swarmed with bald guys. Even noble women are showing up to pick out trendy styles simply for the sake of beauty. A massive Spartan warrior walks up to your stand. He takes off his heavy bronze helmet, revealing incredibly thin hair. He tells you wearing the helmet year-round completely ruined his hairline, and Spartans are strictly banned from using conditioner. You immediately slap a fluffy Gen Z broccoli perm onto his head. He checks himself in the mirror, fills with instant confidence, and just struts away, radiating pure main character energy. Day 5. Your wigs give men confidence and bless women with flawless fashion. Everything is going perfectly smoothly until Socrates shows up. He picks up a wig and asks,
If this wig can make a man feel confident, then who is truly confident? Is it the man or the wig?
You don't say a word. You just slap a rainbow twin-tail wig directly onto his head and hand him a mirror. Socrates stares at himself in the mirror, stunned for 10 seconds. Then he suddenly turns to you and starts speaking Japanese, acting like a Japanese mo girl. You are speechless and can only stare at him blankly. What if a modern tailor opened a shop in ancient Greece? Day 1. You open a tailor shop in Athens, 400 BC. Greeks have never seen stitched clothing. They wear draped fabric held by a pin. You have scissors. Nobody knows what scissors are. Day 2. A merchant tries your first stitched tunic. He stands straighter. The entire market stops to stare. He buys 3 more before noon. Day 3. The shop is full by noon. Yellow measuring tape confuses everyone. Nobody understands why clothing needs measurements. Day 4. Socrates arrives, sits down, refuses to be measured, says a man obsessed with appearance has already lost himself. The crowd outside listens to him instead of buying. Day 5. You make Socrates a robe anyway. He wears it every day after that, never mentions it. Day 7. Greek sculptors start carving draped fabric with stitched folds. You didn't teach them. They just started copying your window display. Some things change history quietly, usually through the side door. What if you brought a luxury yacht to the golden age of piracy? Day 1. You arrive at a Caribbean island styled as Captain Skeleton Sparrow. The world's most feared pirates are depressed around a rotten, tiny wooden boat. You rev the V8 engines of your sleek white yacht. They are absolutely mind blown and board the luxury deck. Day 2. But wait. Socrates appears out of nowhere, trying to sneak into your crew to philosophize about the ocean water. Having zero patience, you tie the philosopher to a giant firework rocket and light the fuse. He launches screaming straight back to Greece. Yeah, he shouldn't return anytime soon, right? Week 1. Absolute chaos. The speedboat's speed breaks the laws of the era. With the engines at max, the massive Royal Navy galleons look like they're standing still. You loot 50 Spanish ships in a single afternoon and escape blasting electronic music. Month 1. The gold no longer fits inside the yacht's hot tub. The feared Blackbeard is now working as the pool boy cleaning your deck. You completely conquered the 7 seas. What if MrBeast appeared in ancient Greece? Day 1. You arrive in Athens with chests of silver coins, sacks of grain, and a permanent smile. The agora smells like olives and fish. People trade quietly. You climb onto a stone bench and announce, "Last person to leave this square wins 1,000 coins." The whole market explodes. Day 2. Hundreds of people stand in the sun refusing to move. You hand out bread, fruit, and water to keep the challenge going. Crowds gather just to watch. Athletes, merchants, philosophers, they start calling you the smiling benefactor. Day 3. You build the first challenge arena in the marketplace. Whoever pushes this giant stone across the square wins a bag of gold. Men strain, crowds roar, dust fills the air. One geezer asks if the challenge represents the meaning of life. You don't answer. Week 1. You give away entire houses. Farmers compete in strength contests. Soldiers race chariots. Every challenge ends the same way, you smiling and handing out prizes. Week 2. A bearded man keeps showing up to question everything. He watches you give away gold and asks calmly,
If generosity is your power, then who are you without it?
You stare at him for a moment. Oh great, it's Socrates. Month 1, you announce your biggest challenge yet. Last philosopher to survive on a deserted island wins eternal wisdom. Socrates is placed on a small boat with no food and no water. You wave goodbye. What if ChatGPT came to ancient Greece? Socrates is standing there watching from a distance with a slight smirk as a strange robot walks toward him. The villagers are confused, but Socrates stays calm and immediately starts questioning it, asking what truth really is. The robot instantly gives a perfect answer, and Socrates goes deeper, trying to trap it like he always does, but this time it's different. The robot answers everything faster than he can even think. Socrates starts pacing, thinking harder, getting slightly confused, while the villagers watch like it's some live debate. He asks one final deep question with full confidence, and the robot answers instantly again. Socrates pauses, then suddenly grabs the robot in frustration to defend his pride. But before he can do anything, the robot instantly lifts him and hits him with a clean F5. The crowd goes crazy, and after a moment, he slowly gets up, looks at the robot, and calmly accepts defeat, while the robot casually asks if he would like a follow-up question. What if Squid Game happened in ancient Rome? Day 1. You wake up inside the Colosseum with 456 other players. Sand everywhere. Roman officials announce the prize, 456 million denarii. Nobody understands the games. Nobody understands the rules. First challenge begins. Everyone moves awkwardly across the sand. Then a man in a robe starts walking next to you, asking questions.
If motion leads to victory, what is the nature of stillness?
It's Socrates. He keeps talking, following you, thinking out loud. You're stuck on red light. You finally lose it and shove him forward. The horn blasts. Socrates is eliminated. Day 2. Players start forming alliances. One man gathers followers immediately. Tall, confident, young, Alexander of Macedon. Half the arena stands behind him. Not because they trust him, because nobody wants him as an enemy. Day 3. Next game, marbles. You're paired with a quiet man studying the sand patterns. He calculates every move. It's Aristotle. Every round he predicts your strategy before you even play. You're losing badly. Then during a distraction from the crowd, you quietly slide his pouch closer. One quick move. The guards blow the horn. Aristotle is eliminated. Final day. Only a few players remain. You scan the arena looking for Alexander. He's gone. During the night, he sabotaged the gates, slipped past the guards, and vanished into the Roman countryside. What if you and Socrates became drug dealers in ancient Rome? Day 1. You arrive in Rome with Socrates, a pouch of powder, glass jars, and a tiny scale. The city smells like wine, sweat, and donkey piss. You set up in a narrow alley and start mixing your product while Socrates asks a random drunk man, if pleasure enters through the nose, was it wisdom all along? A crowd gathers the second the first Roman starts grinning at a brick wall and calling you two sons of Apollo. Day 2. Word spreads across the forum like a plague. Soldiers, merchants, and bored nobles line up before sunrise just to see what the hype is. Socrates keeps rage baiting your customers with questions like, if you crave it twice, do you own the powder, or does the powder own you? And somehow that only makes them want more. By sunset, one senator is buying in bulk, one gladiator is shadowboxing a fountain, and you've made enough silver to look at normal jobs with disgust. Week 1. Your alley is now the busiest place in Rome at night. People whisper about your crystals like they're divine artifacts, and half the city is pretending they're just there to observe. Socrates has become the worst business partner imaginable, walking up to paying customers and asking, if euphoria is temporary, why are you dressed like it's permanent? But instead of getting yelled at, he gets applauded by a crowd of Romans too cooked to understand they're being insulted. Week 2. Things get completely absurd. A group of rich Romans hires you for a private villa party, and by midnight, one man is trying to debate a marble statue while another swears he invented philosophy before Socrates. You're still backing Socrates the whole time, and Socrates uses the chaos to ask the room, if a man hallucinates a better Rome, is this Rome the fake one? Which nearly starts a riot and somehow doubles your demand by the next morning. Month 1. You and Socrates are no longer small time. Your product moves through taverns, bathhouses, and senator banquets, and every lowlife in Rome suddenly knows your name. Socrates still follows you around asking brain-dead questions to customers like, if buying from us ruins you, were you ever truly built correctly? And now nobody in Rome can tell whether he's a philosopher, your mascot, or the greatest promoter of all time. What if you and Socrates became drug dealers in ancient Rome? Month 3. You and Socrates now run half the night trade in Rome. Your powder moves through private villas, and even Julius Caesar acts like he's buying wisdom instead of ruin. Socrates stands beside you, still rage-baiting customers asking, if enlightenment comes from a pouch, were your ancestors just stupid? One nobleman is so offended he buys triple just to prove he understands the question. Month 6. The whole city is cooked. Gladiators miss training, senators show up to debates with shaking hands, and one priest snorts your product behind a temple column before telling the crowd he has seen a statue blink. Socrates keeps wandering into the madness, asking things like, if a man sees the gods after one line, were the gods always hiding in his nose? And somehow the Romans start repeating it like it's actual philosophy. Year 1. You and Socrates are no longer dealers. You're an institution. Every alley, dock, and banquet hall in Rome bends around your business, and even the guards who are taking bribes from you have forgotten what law is supposed to look like. Socrates starts questioning you, asking, if Rome collapses from your success, did you destroy it or simply reveal what it was? Suddenly, the emperor's men begin kicking down doors and questioning your customers because somebody finally decided this might turn into a problem. 1 month later, you and Socrates get arrested by the emperor's men. You and Socrates are sentenced for life in jail. Socrates asks you, if freedom is just a place outside these walls, were we ever truly free while selling to Rome? You can't stand him anymore. Everything looks hopeless until Socrates takes something out of his pocket. Is that a fucking pipe bomb?
What if you brought a PS5 to ancient Greece? Day 1, you arrive in 400 BC Athens with a PS5. A philosopher sees it first, does not touch it, sits down and stares at it for 3 hours. He has not even turned it on yet. Day 2, you turn it on. Every Greek in the Agora stops mid-argument. Day 3, you put on God of War. A Spartan in full armor recognizes Kratos and immediately drops to his knees. You explain it is not real. He does not believe you. He tries to pledge loyalty to Kratos directly. Then he stands up and attempts to physically walk into the screen to join him. You have to pull him back. He tries again. Day 4, word reaches Socrates. He sits down, you hand him the controller. He loads up FIFA, loses on penalties, sits in silence for 4 minutes, then asks who is the greatest player in the world. You say Messi. He nods slowly like he already knew, then asks why Messi was not on his team. Day 5, Plato gets hold of it overnight. He has been playing Minecraft. He has built an entire city. He says it is a shadow of the true ideal city. He is not entirely wrong. Day 6, PS5 overheats. Screen goes black. Every philosopher in Athens takes this as a profound sign. Socrates nods slowly.